Welcome to the second chapter of the Phoenix River tutorial. And last time I left off with setting up the rendering, and here's the result. By the way, I outputted this as 16-bit multi-channel EXRs, and in this chapter I will create additional elements like this mist, which is a separate aero simulation, but it's based on the water simulation that we did in the previous chapter. And then I'll just quickly show you how I scattered the grass using the standard object paint in 3ds Max. Then I'll just take all these elements and put them together. So let's get to work. For the mist, I'll need another simulator, of course. So I'll just create another Phoenix simulator. And I'll input the size. So on the X, I'll set it to 2000, 250, 700 on the Y, and 240 on the Z. And right now the cell size is 1 centimeter, which will produce more than 300 million cells, and that will be way too much for this type of sim. And also when I compose this over the rest of the stuff, it will be barely visible. So I can just set the cell size to 10 centimeters and just simulate 300,000 cells. Okay, so I'll align this to the previous simulator, and on the X, Y, and Z, and I'll align it on the pivot, align the orientation also. And when I have the simulator in place, I can create the source. So I'll come here to the sources, and this time I'll use the standard Phoenix source. So I'll create it here, and I'll change the color to red. So the idea here is very simple. I want to take these splashes from the water simulation and emit smoke from them in the newly created simulator. I'll select the water simulator for a second, and here in the preview tab I'll switch off the foam preview so that I can only see the splashes that I'll be using as emitters, and I will also uncheck the only if selected so that I can see them all the time, and get back to the source. So in order to be able to pick another Phoenix object as emitter, you have to check the Can Pick Phoenix checkbox. Now I can click the Add button, select the water simulator, and I have these three options here. So I can emit from the main water by selecting the Phoenix FD001, which is the water simulator, or I can select one of the two particle groups. And as I said, I want to emit from the splashes, so I'll select the splashes particle group, click OK, and I'll set the mode to inject. And here for the temperature, you can turn that off and simulate just the smoke, or you can turn that on and use a very low temperature like 200 kelvins, which will force the smoke to fall down instead of rise up. So it's up to you. I'll leave it in this way, and I'll increase the amount of smoke. And here I'll enable the velocity and set this to 2, so that now the splashes will apply 2 times more velocity than the actual velocity. And that's it for the source. I want to make sure that the smoke will dissipate over time, so I'll select the mist simulator, and here in the dynamics I'll set the smoke dissipation to 0.3, and I will also uncheck the times V checkbox for the vorticity. And you can use the multi-pass advection, or you can switch to classic. I will switch to classic because it produces a smoother result. And yeah, so before I start simulating, I just want to turn on the GPU preview so that I can have some feedback while simulating. And I'll go to the simulation now and press the start button. So after 2 hours and 20 minutes, the mist simulation is done, and this is what I have. So I like the result. I'm just not very sure about the smoke density. So I'll go here to the rendering, click the colors and transparency, and under smoke opacity, I will decrease the simple smoke factor. So I'll set this to 0.1. And now to render this, I'll open the render settings, and I'll turn off the Caustics, and I'll switch the image sampler to fixed because I will only be rendering the atmospheric, and hit render. And what you'll see now is that everything renders together, but what I want to have is just the smoke, because I want to composite it over the main render that I did in the previous chapter. So how do I stop everything else from rendering but still keep the interactions between the objects and the smoke? Well, by simply making all these objects matte objects. So I'll stop the render, and I'll open the layer editor to select the roots, and I'll also select the stones, the riverbed, and the water, and I'll right click, V-Ray properties, and I'll check the matte object, matte for reflection and refraction, invert the alpha, and also check the alpha, affect alpha and shadows checkboxes. Click close, and for the foam and splashes, I'll just disable them again from rendering by unchecking the renderable, and I'll press render again. And now I only have the smoke, but I still keep the interactions, like this root here that's interacting with the smoke. You can also see the stones and the water. So yeah, so that's about the mist. And the next thing that I'll do is I'll show you the vegetation. Okay, and this is the vegetation scene, and here I have prepared 3 different types of grass. The one on the left and the one on the right have flowers, and this one in the middle is just a grass. So what I did here was I used the object pane tool in 3ds Max, which, by the way, if you can't see, you can go to customize, show UI, and check the show ribbon. And when you expand this, you'll be able to pick from 2 modes of painting, and the first one is paint with selected objects, and the second one is paint with objects in list. So I use the second one, and in this window you can choose the object that you want to scatter. So I would pick the grass. The first time I picked the grass without the flowers, and close this, and here you can specify the method of painting. So you can say I want to paint on selected objects, and I select the riverbed, press the paint button, and start painting the grass. And then what I will do is again I will open up the objects list and swap this grass with some of the grasses that have flowers, like this with yellow flower, and again click on the paint button, and I will create a few flowers here and there. And that's about the painting. Nothing pro here. And about the rendering, again here I made the riverbed and the stones matte objects, and I just rendered a single frame of for the flowers, and yeah, that's about it. And finally I'm here in Nuke to do the final compositing, and these are the elements that I've been building through this short course. And here is the main render that contains the water with the foam, splashes, caustics, and basically everything. And here is the mist that I generated again using Phoenix by emitting smoke from the splashes from the liquid simulation. And here is the vegetation. Okay, so I'll start off with extracting render elements from this multi-channel EXR, and here are all the layers of that EXR. So we have the diffuse, lighting, refraction, and so on and so forth. So to extract a layer, I will use the shuffle node, plug that here, Okay, create some space, and I'll start with extracting the diffuse filter. So if I take a look now, here is the diffuse filter. So I'll use the remove node, but I'll set it to keep, and I want to keep the RGB. Okay, so what happens now is I am taking the multi-channel EXR and I am extracting the diffuse filter from that, and I'll press Alt P to get a thumbnail preview, and I'll call this diffuse. Okay, so I'll select these two, press Alt C to copy, and reconnect these. And here I'll extract the raw lighting, and I'll call this raw lighting. Okay, so when I merge these two together and set the operation to multiply, I will get the total lighting. Okay, so again press Alt C, and this time I'll extract the atmosphere. I'll call this atmosphere. Okay, again press Alt C, and now I'll take the caustics, call this caustics. Okay, again Alt C, extract the specular, and I'll call this specular. And now the reflection, and here are the reflections. So reflection, and I want to point out that I am not going to use the refraction render element in order to get that final image again down here, because as we noticed when we were rendering, when you set the refraction to affect all channels, this information about the refraction is distributing in the render elements. So like here and in the caustics, so there is no need to add it here. So now I can take these guys and merge them together. I'll set the operation to plus, basically add them. Okay, organize that thing here, and as I said, here I have the total lighting, so I'll press Alt P, and I can call this total lighting. Close that, and now I can merge these two together. So take this merge and press M, and here is again the final image. Okay, so if I press 1 for the viewer, and we'll take a look at the original image, and press 2, this is what we have now. So again 1 and 2. Okay, so before I start adding the other elements to the comp, I want to take out some masks from the multi-channel EXR, so that I can improve the look of this render, and then I'll just add the rest. Okay, so again I'll create a shuffle node, link it to the main EXR, and okay, and this time I'll use the masks. Okay, so I'll select multi-matte 1, and here I'll select the the green channel, which will be the riverbed. Okay, press Alt P to get a preview, and I'll call this riverbed mask. Close that, and Alt C to copy that. And this time I'll take the blue channel where we stored the mask for the stones. Okay, and I'll call this stones mask. Close, and I will extract one more. This time it will be from the multi-matte tool, and it will be the roots that we stored in the green channel. Okay, and I can call this roots mask. Okay, great. And now to demonstrate how these masks work, a lot of the times when we are rendering, I was talking about changing the color of the stones. So I can select the diffuse render element now, and I can press M, actually G, to create a grade node, and I can plug the mask input to the stones mask, and I can take the gain and start changing the color of the stones. Okay, so this is pretty cool. But in this case I will not change their color. Instead I'll just create another grade node. Again, link the mask input to the stones, and I will just bump up the gain so that the stones get lighter, and I will also add a sharpen. Again, take the mask, plug it to the stones, and I can sharpen the stones only. Okay, so size of 3 is too much, so I can set it to 2 or 1, and I'll do the same for the riverbed. I'll just press Alt C to copy these two nodes. I need some space. Okay, so connect this to the previous one, this here, and use the masks, connect this to the riverbed mask. Okay, and this one there. Okay, so now I have the stones a little lighter, sharpened, and the same for the riverbed. Okay, I can also take the roots, and this time I can create a color correct node, and I'll plug it to the diffuse, take the mask input and plug it to the roots, and here I can increase the saturation of the roots. So if I just switch to look at the diffuse, oops, here in the color correct, you can see that by increasing this I increase the saturation of the roots. Okay, so I'll set this to 1 and take a look at the final image. Okay, so let's take a look at the other elements. I can create another grade node, and I can increase the gain for the foam. I'll set it again to somewhere about 1.8. I can also boost the specular by again increasing the gain, and finally I can boost the reflections also, again by using the gain. Okay, so this time this will be a little less. Okay, and I can give these guys names so that I can orient better what they're doing. So I can say boost foam, boost specular, and boost reflection. Okay, so this is the raw render, and this is what I have now. And I can now add the vegetation, let's say. So I'll just select the last merge, the vegetation, and press M to merge these two together. And here I'll swap the inputs, so I'll press Shift X, and here is the vegetation. What I can do here is I've also created a multi-matte for the grass, and you can see that I have the grass and the dandelions at different IDs, so that I can separate them here in post. So again, by using the shuffle method, I can plug this here, select the multi-matte and take the red channel for the grass, and I'll press Alt P, and I'll call this grass mask. Okay, and again Alt C to copy that, and this time I'll take the green channel where the dandelions are, and I'll call this dandelion mask. Okay, so I have two more masks here, and I'll add a color correct node, and plug the mask to the grass, and I can now increase the saturation of the grass, the contrast, the gain, and you can see how this one improved. Okay, and I can also create another color correct, this time for the dandelions. I'll just this. Okay, and here again I'll increase the saturation, the contrast, and the gain. Okay, and finally I'll add the mist, so select these two, press M to merge, and right now it's a bit too strong, so I can use the gray node and decrease the strength using the gain. So I'll lower this, and yeah, so here's the final image. So again, we started from this, and at the end we've ended up with this thing here. Okay, and this was it for the river tutorial. I hope that every one of you have learned something new during this course, and to be honest guys, I can't wait to see your simulations using Phoenix. So have fun!